I am Al McFarlane. Welcome to the conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Well, today is Friday, August 25th, 2023, here in Minnesota. The buzz is all about the beginning of the state fair, which began yesterday and runs through Labor Day weekend. We've come off a heat wave, oppressive, massive heat. Things have cooled down. I hope all of you have stayed safe and kept hydrated. I think some more heat is forecast for the days ahead. So, do what you need to do to make sure that you're staying okay. Well, also, I want to thank all of you for participating, for joining, for watching, listening to the conversation with Al McFarlane. And I want to invite you to support this program, this live stream, by subscribing. Now, we're streaming this program across several platforms. Here they are. We're on two YouTube channels. One is YouTube Black Press USA. That's the channel of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Inside News is a member, active member of that organization. We're also streaming YouTube at YouTube Inside News MN. That's our own channel. And we're streaming on Twitter. We're streaming on LinkedIn. We're streaming on 3 Facebook platforms. What's the reason? We want to find as many ways as we can to connect with you. We want you to connect with us. We want us to connect with each other. And to keep track, though, to create the right analytics, we're trying to invite everybody, no matter where you are, to log in and subscribe to this program, to this channel on our YouTube page. So go to YouTube Inside News MN, click the subscribe button. While you're there, click share, click like, and do us a favor, tell everybody you know that an important, robust conversation is going on right here, right now. Well, we also want to, as we begin, remind you that we're working with the Minnesota Department of Health to keep all of us aware about COVID-19 and even long COVID-19. That's the topic of today's program. But here's something for you to take note of. The Hmong American Partnership is continuing their COVID-19 drive-through testing in St. Paul through September. And so mark these dates down there on the screen there on your calendar in case you or somebody you know thinks they may have been exposed to COVID and they want to get the answers. Upcoming dates, as you see, are September 13th, 27th. Contact them for more information at 651-304-6236 and check them out. Check them out. So today, too, after the program, I want to remind you, and we'll say it several times during the program, there's a follow-up that is hosted by our partners. It's called the Recovery Room, and today's topic is addressing long COVID. And what does it mean? It means that after we have this conversation of the healing circle, if you want more information, you want to share your story, if you need counseling advice, here's a place to come online. And here's the Zoom link. We'll put it up several times during the program. And join us, join Dr. B and her team of counselors, of therapists at the Recovery Room. Well, let us begin the program. Let me invite my colleague and my leader, Dr. Bravada Garrett-Akinsayna, the principal at the African American Child Wellness Institute, the CEO of Braken's Psychological Consulting Services. I tell people, Dr. B, that not only are you my friend, you and Brother Yelly, my friends, but not only are you my customers because your company advertises in Insight News and supports this program through advertising and sponsorship, but I'm also a patient of yours. And I want to remind people, as a Black man and as a person in his 70s, right, it's never too late, and it's always important to pay attention to your whole health, including mental health. And we need to always move and share in a way that's open and healing the fact that we need help. We need help, and we can be helped by being with each other and with the knowledge and technical training and expertise that the physicians and the therapists can bring to help us sort out how we move towards being our best selves possible. So I say that as a plug to encourage anybody viewing, and particularly Black men, to discover the value the value of therapy, the value of connecting with health professionals, the value particularly of connecting with professionals in mental health. Brothers, we owe it to ourselves to be the best human beings we can be. With that, Dr. B, welcome to the conversation, and thank you for helping create this partnership out of which we do the Healing Circle every Friday.
That's right. Thank you so much for just being such a beacon of hope and honesty and resilience in our community. And I'm so glad you invited brothers to show up, because we do tend to get more women than men who come for therapy. And that does not negate the fact that brothers have a lot of Black pain in the workplace, in the community, just in society as a whole. And although we are all African American and we suffer in different ways, we have to say and acknowledge that our brothers are often the ones who end up getting the quickened deaths in multiple ways. They end up really suffering in multiple ways that the rest of us may never understand. So thank you for inviting the brothers. And while you're inviting the brothers, and I'm still inviting the mothers and the sisters to show up too. So we'll make sure that everybody gets to join us in our loving healing space, where you have we have now up to 18 African American therapists, men and women, who work with couples, children, adults, grandparents, from babies up to geriatrics. And we really appreciate you bringing that with us and partnering with us when every Friday we get to talk about wellness or some aspect of wellness and give people a different perspective. So today, if you don't mind, I'm just going to talk about our protocol.
Yeah, please.
Of our healing circle. So yes. Every Friday when we meet, we have a certain way that we engage with one another. And we call the healing circle a circle, even though it's virtual, because in African tradition, we always meet in circle. And circle is a space where power is shared. There's no beginning or end or top or bottom. We are all have equal access to the center, which is the place of power, the place of voice. And in that circle, we always honor our elders, because no matter who we are, we stand on their shoulders. They have worked their way, prayed our way, and hoped our way into existence. And we honor our elders. As we do that, we also honor our ancestors. And we honor our ancestors because the elders stood on their shoulders. And we honor our ancestors because they're closest to our Creator. And we honor our Creator because our Creator made us all. And we believe in the African concept of consubstantiation, which means that every living thing is connected. We are connected to each other as human beings. We're connected to the earth and everything in it. So today we welcome you to this healing space where you count, where your body counts, your mind counts, your spirit counts, your past counts, your present counts, and your future counts. So welcome to the circle this afternoon. You mute, my brother Al, and I know you're saying something good.
I was saying, what a wonderful way to begin. It's a way to set the intention of the moment. And why it's important to me, Dr. B, I came upon an awareness of protocols and how we engage when I was visiting Ghana. And I visited Ghana in, I think, 94 the first time, and then went back a series of times in 98, 99. And in the second series, I had a chance to meet with a lot of political and cultural leaders in preparation for promotion of a cultural festival that was going to be happening in Ghana. It was called Panafest. And I remembered that all of the meetings that we had started with a certain formula. And, I wasn't expecting it. Nobody explained it. But after about 3 or 4 meetings, I said, these meetings all start the same way. And whoever is the convener of the meeting starts off by saying, just like you did, we acknowledge the number one, the leaders in the room, but then
Mhm.
with them, we acknowledge the ancestors and we acknowledge the elders and we acknowledge everybody in this room. And we also acknowledge the future. And so that protocol stuck with me as something that is important. And it's a way to transmit and to hold values, right? Uh, and as you've described it, it's a way for us to be together with each other with an orderliness and with the respect and with the ability to ensure that our being together always tries to create a welcoming opportunity for everybody in the circle. And so it's a wonderful thing. Well, one of the things I want to take a minute to have you say more about is um, uh, the recovery room. At the end of every month, we have a special project. Talk about that, what the vision is for the recovery room.
Yeah, what we wanted to do with the recovery room is understand that when we're in this circle, we it's electronic and we use order, because I forgot to say we use a virtual talking stick that goes from one person to another. In this circle, we get to do a lot of educating and we get to do a lot of sharing of information. And after we've been educated and filled with this information, we also want to have a chance for people in our community to have voice, to actually experience some way that their spirits can be fed even deeper. And that recovery room is a place to come after you've heard what you heard in the healing circle,
Mhm.
and then step into a town hall like support space where when you're in it, you can laugh, you can cry, you can tell your stories. And if it gets harder and you need an individual time, you can step out of that space and you can be met with an individual counselor who will help you, who will talk to you, schedule appointments for you and your family if you need it. So we're trying to give the healing not just purpose, but legs. And so we invite people to join us right after this first hour and spend one more hour with us in that sacred space of recovery room. And it's a very powerful experience for anyone there. And everyone who's experiencing long COVID or have loved ones who have experienced it, or you may be just inexperienced and you're worried about it, you're welcome to come to that space. So thank you for giving me that opportunity, Baba
Well, we're
L.
going to have a special guest joining us momentarily. Why don't you take a minute and talk about our special guest, not doctor, but sister, uh, Sister Sweeney, Chimere Sweeney, who has a story to tell about long COVID and about advocacy. But give us some background about her.
All I can say is I was researching Black folks and our experiences with COVID, and especially with long COVID. And I know how systems tend to, if they over identify us, they magnify our problems. If they under identify us, they minimize our successes. So when I look for someone who's been coping with the pain and injustice and the multiple components of harm that's caused by COVID to our bodies, and how those feelings and those experiences are negated. I ran across Sister Shimmery's her articles. I read about some, I think it was Newsweek had done an interview with her. And then as I read about her, I just fell in love with her. I saw this sister took her pain and what we psychologists refer to as sublimating. That means taking that negative energy and making it positive. She took that pain and she wrapped it up tight and she made it into a movement.
Ah,
And when I saw that, my belief is that wellness is a right. I found that she was a sister cut from the same cloth, and I just wanted our community just to experience this beautiful powerful Black woman, and what she experienced, hearing her story, and what she has done with it. So I'm just excited for people to get to meet her.
Well, I'm excited as well. Let me bring her in and say, Sister Chimere, welcome to the Healing Circle. Before you start, I want to acknowledge the great training you have at Morgan University. That's where my daughter went to school, so I'm a Morgan fan all day and all
Yes.
night.
This is already starting good, right?
There we go. There we go. It's going to get better and better.
Yes.
Welcome to the conversation with Al McFarlane, the Healing Circle. And I'm going to just hand you the talking stick and say what's on your mind, sister.
Well, first of all, I'm Chimere Sweeney, and I loved Al when you said Sister Sweeney, because I just got married about 2 months ago, and as a Baptist, always, even I love hearing sister. I used to be Sister Smith, and Sister Sweeney. So it is a pleasure. Am I saying it correctly, Dr. Bravada or Dr. B?
Yeah.
I
And
can't
before you go,
Chimere.
Chimere, right?
Chimere. Mm-hmm.
I've been calling Chimere for days.
I'm going to add one other appellation, and that is Queen Chimere.
Thank you.
Welcome, Queen. Welcome,
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here with you, Al, and Dr. B. It is on this Friday where in Poughkeepsie, New York, as I'm a new resident, it's kind of dreary here, and it's been that way for the past couple of days. This is truly the sunshine of my week. It is a pleasure, because I can honestly tell you, in my 3 years of sharing my story about being a Black woman with long COVID, one of my major concerns and one of my major frustrations is that not many Black media platforms, not many Black health organizations have invited myself or other Black women or other Black men and families to share their story on long COVID. And it's concerning. I've been celebrated, in white culture. And I'm appreciative of that. But there's nothing like being at home, right? And so before I begin, I encourage media outlets like this one, and I encourage other health organizations who do speak to BIPOC communities to take more of a vested interest, if possible, in long COVID, because it is most definitely affecting families. It's affecting financial situations at home. It's affecting our insurances. Many of us and our families have had to shift and employment and trying to juggle losing jobs and losing insurance benefits. And now that the public health emergency has ended, there are also many other resources, as you all know, that have been cut. And so we need more local, state, federal, and even entertainment and even media platforms to discuss this, because it is a raging danger in our communities. And I myself have been struck by it. As we all talked about, for 3 years, I have been living with long COVID. And my first symptoms started in March of 2020. And I was a teacher then. I was thriving as a teacher in Baltimore City. And you all know, in our community circle, even today, I was the only college graduate in my immediate family. And here I was making the most money I'd ever made. And not only just the money, because we know that teachers don't get paid as they should. But in my, experience, it was the most money I'd ever made. And it was the most freeing career I could have ever chosen. I was a makeup artist. I worked for the government prior to. And here I was, a thriving teacher, you all. And and I like to keep it real. I don't do a lot of trying to be super formal and code switching. My students, before I left the classroom, used to call me Smizzle. They'd be like, "What's up, Smizzle?" Because my last name was Smith. And we were just that cool. And I had a relationship with those students. Before I left, on the very last day that I left the classroom in Baltimore City, that week, my students were learning about Shakespeare.
Mm.
And I wasn't teaching them just the, line by line. We were talking about points that were relevant to our communities. If I had to teach it, then I was going to flip it and make it pertinent to those students in our communities. And we were doing so well. I was the most proud I had ever been of my students. I taught 6th through 8th grade for 5 years, and I intended to teach 5 more years. And yet, on March 22nd, 2020, there was a tickle in my throat and a feeling in my body I will never forget. I was that sore throat moved to a very strange fatigue that I could not blame on being a teacher, because by that time we knew very little about COVID, but the governor in our state in Maryland, he had already started to, he had shut schools down. So I had time to rest and get myself together. But the sore throat turned into deep fatigue. It turned into feelings of disassociation, as if I was in the wrong body, dehydration, diarrhea, constipation, migraines, and also a very sharp, fiery pain in my spine that to this day has never left.
Wow.
And I wasn't able to think clearly. My tongue felt like it wasn't there. I could still taste, but my tongue had a very peculiar taste on it. It turned yellow. My eyes turned red and yellow, as if I had jaundice. And I went to my first doctor's visit at an urgent care. And at that time, nobody really knew about COVID. And I asked the doctor, I said, I think I have COVID. What do you think? And he was like, nah, I don't think so. And even if you did, there's nothing we could do about it. Go home and rest. So I didn't really take that seriously. So I went to a hospital that night and I was told the same thing. And I went to the hospital the next day and the next night and the night after that. And each time I was allowed a little bit of time to stay in the hospital, or there would be times where they would leave me in the hospital and leave me in the room, in the triage room, and they would just stop caring for me. And then they would come back and say, oh, there's nothing we can do, but here's a prescription for. So I was chemically treated, but I never was addressed. And I always would ask them, do you think this is COVID? And I had a lot of male doctors who were white, who, would come and they would say, are you sure that you're not experiencing anxiety because right now school is closed? And I was like, hold up now. I know my body. I had my insurance card, so that was no issue. I was becoming very aware of my symptoms. I collected my symptoms in my phone. Very strange symptoms, mental health symptoms. I heard you all mention before mental health, and Al, let me know if I go too far.
No, keep going. No.
Yes, mental health symptoms, around. I started seeing Black figures in the room. People don't, and this is what we need to talk about in our communities, because so many of us, as you all mentioned, are suffering and we don't know why. And that's because there is not a focus. There's not a hyper focus on our communities and what's happening in our communities. We are the most affected and yet the most neglected.
That's right.
And so what I found in my experience, because I went to the emergency rooms about 12 or 13 times. And each time in some way, shape or form, I was told that I was out of my mind. I had a doctor sit close to me and say, is there something going on? Did you experience a breakup? And I said, well, if you look at my health records, because I've been a patient here for a while, you see that there has never been me showing signs of these kind of strange symptoms ever before. Now, what can you tell me? I had another doctor, a woman, which was so saddening and disappointing. She came to me in June of 2020 while I was in the hospital with IVs hooked up to me, dehydrated, high blood pressure, all because of COVID. She said to me, "You've been here quite a few times. Do you think you need to go to the mental health part of our hospital?" And I told her, absolutely not. I said, because once again, look at my chart. And then you tell me, have you ever seen me with these symptoms? And so it went on and on and on like that for months until at the end of June, I got sick and tired. By that time, I had lost my vision in my left eye. I ended up developing a deep cataract in my left eye at 38 years old. And I hired, at the time I had a little piece of change, right? Because I was spending my summer money because I never liked to teach summer school. So I would always save me, as my godmother says, a little piece of change, right? And so I spent my little piece of change on trying to find and getting me a health advocate who wanted a certain amount per hour. And I was paying this woman per hour until a couple of weeks later, I looked and I saw all that I had gathered myself with my one eye. And I said, I'm doing more than what she can do. So let me fire her and let me become my own best advocate.
Wow.
So what I started to do, Al and Dr. B, is I started to, with this one good eye, I started to, in the dark, because I couldn't stand light. I couldn't stand sharp sound, right? Only thing I would do is I would keep a low volume of CNN. And I would also ingest the fact that there were hardly no BIPOC Black stories about COVID. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. With my one good eye, I'm reading these stories in the news. I'm listening as much as I can because I developed tinnitus, ringing in my ear. But I was paying attention because I was hyper focused on the fact that I was deathly sick. I mean, couldn't get out the bed, lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks. I was extremely sick. My mental health had taken such a nosedive. But I said to myself, I noticed that in these stories, it's never about Black people. There's never anything about, and I said, in other health issues, we are usually the most neglected. I see in this issue, it's the same. And so I had come with a little bit of privilege. You know how we get sometimes. I was like, look, I'm a teacher. I'm making a certain amount of money. I got this blue and white insurance card. I'm good. But life and long COVID taught me, no, you can be. I experienced so much racism and sexism in those those cold, lonely hospital rooms where nobody came to see about me. Although how could you let someone keep leaving your hospital with a deep cataract? How can you let someone leave your hospital who is saying that I can't feel my legs or my arms? I just lost 30 pounds. I went from 200 to 160 something in 3 weeks. But they kept turning me away. So one day, I like to tell a good story. One day I said to myself, I came home and I was in such despair. I was crying my eyes out. I was like, Lord, I talked to God so much. And I said, Lord, I said, if this is my time to go, I'm okay with it. Because I was so sick. I was like, I knew that this was my time to leave here. And I said, if it's your will, I'm okay. Because I had set everything up because I was so sick and I was so scared. But then I just surrendered my will because I was like, I'm too sick to do anything else. But I said, before I do this, I said, I am going to, or no, I surrendered my will. And I said, but I'm gonna take a shot in the dark, literally. And I am going to write to my city council member. I'm going to write to the mayor of Baltimore City. I'm going to write to the delegate, the senators. I'm going to write to all the political people who have power, who look like me, in this city. And lo and behold, a few days later, I got an email from my city councilman. And he said, Miss Smith, at the time, I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this. He was like, let me see what I can do. And then I had another longtime city council woman reach out and say, let me see what I can do. I had a state delegate who said, oh, I can do something. I know Johns Hopkins. I know the people. I'm on one of the boards. So they reached out to Johns Hopkins. And then we had all of these meetings. All of a sudden, people started to take me seriously. Remember, I had fired my own health advocate because I realized that I was my best advocate. And then when I started to hear, because in my emails, I was letting them know, I said, this is no way. I said, if it's happening to me as an educated Black woman, I can only imagine how you're treating people who you don't deem as privileged in this hospital. And so small steps were made. And then I started getting on social media and I was like, where are the stories about Black families experiencing this? When I realized that my 2 weeks, remember they would say, go home for 2 weeks and you'll be better. Okay. I was one of the ones that I never got better. And so I made noise because as I get emotional, because as Dr. B talked about our ancestors, I thought about my grandmother, or my maternal grandmother, Frances Eloise Noble Smith, who died in her mid-50s because there was no good treatment for colon cancer. And I pulled on the spirits of my Aunt Rosie, who died at 93. And I pulled on my great grandmother and my great grandfather and my father's parents. And I said, I all with God and all with everything. And I said, I need your help. And I used that fierceness that I remember. I used that steadfastness to make noise. And thankfully for me, and I know this isn't everybody's experience, thankfully for me, I was able to get the care that I needed. But I understand that it's still such a far journey to go for so many of us. But I tell you, Al and Dr. B, I had to fight my way to where I am today.
What a powerful testimony. What a
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Dr. B, unmute.
Yeah, I had to mute because I was up here having church.
I know that's right.
Girl, shame the devil.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Yeah.
That's such a powerful testimony. And sister, I think the thing that you've done today is you have let young people, old people, middle-aged people know that no one is exempt from long COVID. And the shame is not ours.
Yes. Yep.
And that being an advocate for ourselves, even though we're weak and weary and worn out, may be our best bet to open, like our grandmas used to say, closed mouth don't get fed.
That's right.
So we have to open our mouth, right, and get help and open our mouth to people who care about what we're going through. And your modeling of, like I said, your fierce modeling in this space of how that recovery process took fighting. And it's so sad to me because sometimes we get to that point, and I've been there, where you're just so tired. You don't even see if you've got another breath in you to fight.
Right. That's right.
And at that last breath, before you gave up, you just said, let me just try one more time.
Come on.
It touched me so deeply.
Yes. Thank you.
And I'm hoping that as people listen today, because after this show, we always have one more hour where we ask the audience to call in and talk on Zoom, where they get to share their own stories about their pain and their experience of having COVID, and family members who continue to have long COVID or themselves, and just seeing that, there's hope. So you bring light.
Thank you.
In a space that's been very dark. And I can't even begin to tell you how important it is that you share that story everywhere you can and everywhere you go, because you just broke it down.
Thank you.
You wasn't sugarcoating a thing. You described the symptoms.
That's
you
right.
just let people know, in any and all of those, like even other symptoms that
there's more.
May not know why they're having them, because suddenly a lot of people start thinking they have fibromyalgia and they never had it before. And and they start having, like a young person with cataracts like that. And if they did stop enough to look to see that our Black lives matter, if they checked, like you kept saying, they would see this is an anomaly.
Yes.
And the first thing, as a psychologist, I hear people, it's hypochondriac. They are all hypochondriac, but you don't have hypochondriasis in your body like that.
That's right. That's right.
You might feel like in your head, you got a bug or something, but what you're experiencing is very, very real.
That's right.
I don't even know. And so I guess the question is, as you share with us earlier, in terms of dipping into your ancestral and memories of empowering people in your life, that was one of the biggest sources of your healing.
Yes.
And I hear that you're telling us that we have that unlimited oasis and wealth, a river of people who we can count on in our histories.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How did you bring that into your present, not just to the providers, but sister, I saw you influencing everyday people. I saw some speaking engagements and all kinds of things. Tell us a little bit about what else you did.
Oh my goodness, and that's the biggest blessing. And I want to say something. I want to speak to before, because I have my memory loss because of this is tremendous. But Al, I want to speak to something that you said, because I actually am working on something now about men. And I've been thinking so much about men, Black men with long COVID. And what that's like. Actually, I'm a writer as well. So I wrote this article recently, and I was just kind of passionate about it, about the complicated relationship that America and Hollywood has with Black men, because they don't ever nominate Black lead actors like they nominate white or others. And so I've been thinking lately that even though that's a separate issue, but at the same time, there is, in one of the parts of the article, I said, America has had such a long-standing, complicated relationship with Black men. Black men in America have never been allowed to love, to have pain, to feel sick, to be dismayed, to have depression, to be disheartened, to just to simply be sad or to have joy or anything. In our society, that's overlooked. And so in the midst of this, I focus a lot on being a Black woman with long COVID, but I've taken as now that I'm married and I see the daily, sometimes struggles that my husband and, other men, even if they're not in partnerships or relationships, they struggle with long COVID, brothers of long COVID patients, or as I mentioned, sons. I am very much interested. I would love to, I'm writing something. I would love to do some type of virtual meeting or documentary or something about the men, because here's another opportunity that America could use to practice erasure of the Black male experience with long COVID. I'm concerned about it, because I know that my husband, great man that he is, sometimes it's hard for him to process and understand. And it's not his fault that his wife, after 3 years, why on this week alone, on Monday and Tuesday, after a weekend of activity of, cooking and moving things around our new home, why I take 2 and 3 days in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Why I sometimes can't do anything because my back has now been destroyed by long COVID. Don't get it twisted. People may see me in a store. They may see me on this live in this conversation. But I'm telling y'all, after our conversation, after the healing circle, I'll be in bed for the rest of the day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't be able to come downstairs to greet my husband and say, hey, babe, you're home. I have to take that time. I have to pace myself all the time. Because I just want y'all to know that you may see this, but there's another story behind this, but there are eye allergies now that cause eczema scars and eczema lesions on my eyelids to the point where sometimes I can't open them when I wake up. There are rashes and lesions on my skin that have destroyed my skin. There are hormonal issues that, I've heard from aunties and grandmamas and great aunts for years about hot sweats. I get them every single day, hot flashes every day. And there's more. There's times when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and that's my 10th time getting up in the middle of the night going to the bathroom. My feet are full of fire and pain because the inflammation, my teeth, I'm concerned. I'm telling y'all, I'm concerned that right now, I don't care how pretty you look on the outside. A couple of months ago, I flicked my tongue up into one of my my top teeth. And I said, dang, it's a hole there. You know why? Because the inflammation in my body is still so great that it's creating pockets of holes in my teeth. One of my sisters in the fight, we just had a conversation. She said, I'm in the process now of having all of my teeth removed because COVID removed her teeth.
Lord.
So when I talk about being erased, I refuse to be erased because there's too much stuff happening to us. I lost every dime I had. Can you imagine? I grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C., dreaming of being a public speaker, the irony, and all of these things, reading a nerdy little skinny girl who grew up essentially poor, right? To make it to be one of the best teachers in the city, to now tell y'all that a year and a half ago, I lost everything. Every dime in my pocket. I spent on taking Ubers and Lyfts to doctor's appointments. I spent on doctors. I spent on paperwork. I spent every dime on Pedialyte because I couldn't eat anything. Right? So when I speak about these things, this is real for me. This is real. This is not a game. And the fact that, and I know Black media and Black platforms struggle more than others because there are not as many resources for us as it is for others. But we have to include this. We got our entertainment gossip, and all we do sometimes on social media is go back and forth with each other. I don't like this. I don't like that. No, I haven't yet seen a large Black media publication cover long COVID. And I've reached out, sent letters, sent pictures for articles. Look, I'll do some stuff for free. I don't care because I'm trying to get the message out. But to Dr. B's point, I have been blessed by this struggle. This is cliche, but what was meant to destroy me has now been a huge part of my destiny. It started with people wanting to interview me. I've been interviewed by everybody. I'm thankful for that. But I still want to talk to more Black organizations. y'all, we peoples. Why are we not talking to each other about this? Why are we struggling? And that's not on the cover of somebody's newspaper or blog site.
Mm-hmm.
If we can cover Cardi B, we can cover long COVID.
That's right. That's right. That's
I mean, for real. And so this has turned into such a blessing for my family and I. You know, I've written articles, I've been a part of books. I'm working on my own thing right now because listen, I'm not going to be putting stuff in other people's pockets and not taking care of my own. You hear what I said?
That's right.
And so I'm a part of, you know, research studies and conversations. I just was invited a month or two ago to go to Colorado to speak to the science writers at the University of Colorado. And it's opened up so many doors. Mm-hmm. But as I have humbled myself, because all the doors that can open can sometimes mess with your ego, but I had to come back down to earth to realize, listen, remember how you got here and why. To understand that there still needs to be these kind of conversations in every major city that trickle down into small cities, into urban communities. We need to be having this conversation often because COVID has also changed my brain and my personality. Yeah. So my temper is quick. So there might be times when my husband is doing everything right, and I'll be like, "What you do? What?" And I have to remind myself that calm down. This is a part of long COVID, and this is, you know, I have to be accountable still, right? But I still struggle and I still suffer. But I am determined to inform and educate and encourage because I can't afford not to. I can't afford not to.
Sister, let me say that as you were speaking, you know, the term flipped in my mind from long COVID
Yeah.
to long America.
Listen.
For Black people, this is you know, so everything that is magnified in the COVID experience is an intensification of the slow suffering that we have and continue to endure. And by saying that, doesn't say that that's the end of it. What we're saying is that as you are speaking life right now, you are demonstrating and reflecting both the resilience and the future. And the capacity to win and to rewrite the story, to rewire your brain, your spirit, your mind, and to author a future that reflects both being healed and the process of healing itself.
Yes, thank you.
Healing and healed, one and the same. Yeah. And that's what we claim. That's who we are. That's what we do. And I think this is just such a powerful story. You know, the beautiful thing is that this is being shared now to our network of 200 Black newspapers at Black Press USA. And I'm going to take a minute and amplify what you just said and invite my colleagues, the owners of Black newspapers across this country and beyond, to take heed, to pay attention, to engage in our own communities, or to reach out to you directly. We'll make sure we put in the chat how to reach you. But you're available, and they should reach out to you, or with your assistance, reach out to other people who are experiencing and who are winning, right? In this challenge, so that we continue to change the narrative, tell a different story, right? About advocacy. I love the fact that you said, you know what, I have an obligation to do this myself and do it better than anybody else. My grandmother always said to me, I used to, so I was raised in a Pentecostal family. Grandfather was the pastor. He was like the spiritual guy, my step-granddad. But my grandmother was the ultimate practical person. She had her, she had her energy surrounded and kept everything together, right? And so she was the tree, right? She was the river. And she would say, and she spoke in parables all the time. I don't know if she intended that they were parables. She was just talking. I recognize now that it was philosophy and it was parables. And so she would say, boy, you got to mind your business. Mind your business, right? And
Right. That's
at
right.
one level, it means don't be nosy.
That's
at
right.
one level. But she wasn't talking about that. She was talking
No,
about
she wasn't. Nope.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so out of that, I tell people today, our health is our business.
That's right. That's
And
right.
while we are interested in Mayo Clinic here in Minnesota, developing a pill that will stop and prevent and cure cancer, what we have to look at is that over the past 80, 90 years, over several $billion of revenue have gone into the construction of an examination of how to address the question of cancer and other medical challenges. Well, we now have described and been described as the victims of health disparities of all kinds in every category. We have to take it upon ourselves to say our health is our business and lay claim on the billions of revenue associated with problem solvers. We have to be the problem solvers. And you have said that. And you have demonstrated that by saying, I am my best advocate. That's obviously what Dr. B does. It's what I do. It's what we do. It's who we are. So we have to tell this story and to show it, highlight it, and keep saying what we're doing is being messengers.
That's right.
We are evangelists in many ways, right? Showing the community, our community everywhere. This is how we do it. And we got to do it ourselves. Nobody can do it for us.
That's right.
So I still thank you for your comment and your presence and your work. Dr. B, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Thank you.
Well, all I'm going to say is it's been a really, I'm looking at our time, we're about to get through, but I just have to say it's just been a fabulous experience having you here.
Thank you.
And we will definitely have to have you back in the future
I would love to.
as we do some more of this work. And I also want to invite you and others to the recovery room.
Absolutely.
And it's after the last Friday of every single month.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's at 2 p.m. So today is recovery room day. And if you can step in there with us and just
absolutely, yes,
and hear your real voice and ask you a couple of questions.
Yes,
I know you'll get another base of fans.
That's
So I know it's not just me.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's crazy. I'm not even looking for fans. I just want people to know. You know what I'm saying? I'm an introvert. People don't ever believe it. I'm an introvert. And so, I tell my story. I tell this story as a what I say now about myself is I'm a storyteller. And that's my job. And if my story can impact someone else, then I've told a good story because it's real, it's honest, and it's authentic, and it's just the way I know how to tell. I was the same in the classroom, and I'm the same right now. So it has been an absolute pleasure. You all hit on so many things that are important to my heart and are important to the circle of people in the long COVID community, the Black people who need to know that there is an area of support. So it's been my honor and my pleasure to be with you today.
Sister, I didn't have a chance to really go deep with you on this, but I want to know a little bit more about, you mentioned your ancestors. Who are your ancestors? Who are your people?
My people are, I'm a noble. Our family is based in Burlington, North Carolina. And, it was so funny because 2 years before I got sick, I went down to Burlington because my great grandfather, his name was Count Pulaski Noble.
Whoa.
And he was recognized by the church. I cannot recall the name, but there was a Baptist church that my great grandfather and other deacons helped to build. And so there was 125-year celebration, and they honored my grandfather, my great grandfather. And so there are times I think about that. So I'm a Noble, I'm a Smith, I'm a Page. I did not know my father, but I am, close to his sister. And, my ancestors, my great grandfather, Count Pulaski, And like I mentioned, Frances Eloise, my grandmother, who I never met but suffered from colon cancer. When I in March of 2021, when I started to feel a little bit better, I created an altar. And at that altar, I lit candles, and I had some of the things that my family told me were their favorites. I've always been an auntie's baby. So my great aunts, I knew what to bring to the altars for them, but I didn't know my grandmother, Frances. So I brought things for her. I lit candles. I prayed, and I wrote in my journal. And I asked them to help me and to guide me. And from March of 2021, even though I felt empowered in other ways, I felt recharged and I felt more prepared. At that year, I talked to Congress. I talked to Craig Melvin on MSNBC. I talked to so many people, had so many opportunities. And I know it was because of the Noble Smiths pages who were there to guide me. And so I never leave. I love that you all are asking me that, because I don't get that question a lot. You know, I get all the surface questions, but never questions like this. So I thank you. I
interviewed a sister who was a queen. She lived in DC, but she was actually
where I'm from,
installed as the queen of a community in Ghana. And Queen Peggy was her name. But she always talked about the ancestors being around her all the time. And she encouraged us and all of us to just be aware, be attuned to their presence, and that they are guiding us as we speak. We simply have to learn to listen, to be aware.
That's right. That's
well,
right.
Listen, I have so much more I want to say to you and learn from you and share, but we'll do that down the road.
That's right, because I'll be back.
All right. And I'm going to be in touch with you about writing as well, because if you want to write, I got some space.
Okay, well, I would love to. I would love to, because that's what I'm always doing. Thank you so much, Al. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Dr. B, as always, what a wonderful show.
It has been, and I'm just grateful. And once again, inviting people to join us at it's a Zoom right after this, and I'm hoping that people will join us at the recovery room as we begin to share more about what healing is and how we get there. So thank you, Brother Al, and thank you, my queen sister.
Thank you for coming. All right,
thanks to our producer for the program, Vash Bodhi, keeping us informed and on track. There's a message there. Thanks to Michelle, too, who's our regular visitor.
Thank you, Michelle,
for your comments and your good wishes. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane, the Healing Circle. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.